Despite about a 30-minute filibuster from two frequent critics of the Mayor Jimmy Davis administration, the City Council unanimously approved a measure dissolving the Bayonne Municipal Utilities Authority on December 31st of this year. Peter Franco, who had an unpleasant exchange with MUA Executive Director Tim Boyle after the June Council meeting, continued to chip away at the autonomous agency last night, claiming that Boyle abused his authority by hiring someone with no qualifications and then covering it up.
I was then given information by the same source that this employee was hired full-time by the Department of Public Works. I filed another OPRA request for a copy of the employment application of said employee. On his application, said employee voluntarily revealed under employment history that he in fact worked for the BMUA from the summer of 2015 to the fall of 2015. I also noted that there was no previous work history of this employee prior to being hired as a laborer in the BMUA. The application also included a list of references, one of which lists the supervisor at the BMUA, Mr. Tim Boyle. To my surprise, the address of Mr. Boyle is identical to the address provided by the employee.
Franco also implied that the hire was political, given that the unnamed laborer and Boyle both worked on Davis's 2014 mayoral campaign. He asked for an explanation for the hire, including how and when it was advertised, and compared the situation to then-Governor Jim McGreevey hiring vastly underqualified staffers in the early 2000s.
I certainly believe this is an abuse of authority. This is no different than what happened with Governor McGreevey. And before my words get taken out of context, allow me to clarify that the governor used his position of authority to hire someone that he knew was not qualified for the job.
Franco's remarks appeared to be for naught after asking for Boyle, who was not present, to respond. Both Council President Sharon Adrowski and Corporation Counsel John J. Coffey told him his concern should be taken to the MUA board, which will continue to meet until the end of the year. Pete Cresci, who has opposed the MUA absorption since it was first in front of the Council in April, began by noting that it would be premature to vote on this measure, given that the Council has not received the full list of MUA creditors. Nadrowski countered that everyone on the Council had been informed of the assumption of a $234,920 MUA bond, which the Council also approved to take on at the meeting. City CFO Terrence Malloy said that certain things had to be taken into consideration, given that the MUA is still an active entity.
They're still an active entity. There'll be a snapshot on December 31st as to what they owe. Our conversations with the MUA is that prior to December 31st, as much as possible, all their bills are to be cleared up and paid. Obviously, if some bills are in dispute, they wouldn't be paid at that point in time. Our current belief is that there will be adequate assets from the MUA to cover all those bills through December 31st. But even if you took a snapshot now, what their outstanding accounts payable is, that's what you're really referring to as an accounts payable.
After Cresci further argued that isn't the issue at hand, Business Administrator Joe DeMarco finally revealed that the ex-MUA employee, who now works for the DPW, is Juan Barte, one of 12 seasonal employees who receives no benefits and is done with work on September 2nd.
Juan Barte is his last name. He's a seasonal employee for DPW. He has received notice, as every other seasonal employee, that their last day is September 2nd. September 2nd. So he was hired along with Gary. How many other seasonal? 12. He was one of 12 seasonal employees hired by the DPW. He's an hourly employee. He receives no benefits, no pension credits, no nothing. And as every seasonal employee, as Gary and I discussed, September 2nd is their last day.
And you were aware that he is of the same address as Mr. Boyle?
I am now, and I really don't think it makes a difference. And I really don't want to get into Mr. Barte's personal life, which you may be aware of, but I'm not privileged to say.
The back and forth continued with Franco, Cresci, and fellow resident Mike Morris all approaching the podium before the Council approved the measure by a vote of 4-0, with First Ward Councilman Tom Cotter absent. Third Ward Councilman Gary LaPalooza was the first to explain his vote, noting that this move was necessary to ensure more transparency and oversight of the MUA.
By bringing that under the council control, I know that I'll be able to do that. And most of the people that know me, I've met with all these people about the budget. I plan on doing that with the expenses for the water and the sewerage, and I will make sure that these contracts are the way they're supposed to be.
Councilman at Large Juan Perez and Adrowski agreed with LaPalooza's assessment. I'm John Hedges with the Hudson County View, the eye of the community.